Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1711, along with the town of Needham. We are a proud LGBTQ welcoming congregation, climate justice seeking green sanctuary, and a level 2 sanctuary supporting congregation for immigration justice. Whoever you are, whatever your background, and wherever you're watching from, you are welcome here. My name is Deborah Niles. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I've been a member of First Parish for 24 years. In that time, I have taught Sunday school and served on the Welcoming Committee and the Green Congregation Committee. I am currently chair of the Social Action Committee. As you know, what's happening right now at the congregation is very different than usual because of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Although our building is closed, our faith community is wide open. We hope that all will plug into our Zoom gathering opportunities throughout the week, including Zoom social hour after every Sunday service. You can learn more about all that's happening at First Parish by going to our website, uuneedham.org, or following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. To get the Zoom links, please sign up for our email newsletter by going to our website and clicking Get Involved Newsletter, or sending your request by email to office@uuneedham.org. Our sincere hope is that these online services and connection opportunities will help us keep the physical distance required during this pandemic without losing much of the spiritual, emotional, or social closeness that we treasure in our faith community. This morning, we have a special honor of having Matt Meyer as our guest. Matt is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist with a long background as a musician and worship leader for UU congregations. Matt lives in Boston, but travels as an itinerant worship leader, bringing the good news of Unitarian Universalism to hundreds of congregations all over the country. He serves as the director of operations for Sanctuary Boston, a contemporary UU worship community with rock and music and engaging worship. I vividly remember when Matt first came to the Needham Church over 20 years ago to lead us in worship. He was pretty young then, but I could tell already that he had a deep spiritual way of engaging people and making them feel inspired. I have looked forward to seeing him at each of the General Assemblies I've attended. He leads diverse congregations to worship together to build peace through cooperation and song. Matt's children's story, Desmond Gets Free, was recently published as a book by Skinner House Press. To get a copy for a child, teacher, or any justice maker in your life, check out the link in the chat online. I was delighted to read this to my students. They truly loved it, as did the adults in the room. We are in for a treat and so happy to have him back again with us.
We light our chalice this morning with words from the Siddur of Temple Beth Zion in Boston, an interpretation on Psalm 97. Embedded in my heart a melody beats, awaiting the conductor's call. I hear it now and again faintly. It disturbs my quest for power with hints of grace. It haunts my dreams of control with intimations of selflessness. It stays my hand lifted in anger and calms my heart when I am tight with rage. It whispers to me of justice and sings to me of compassion. It is the song of God, and I shall sing it yet, but not alone. We each bear the song, and we each need the choir. Someday the song will rise in our mouths, and we will sing together in harmony. Mountains of discord will melt before us, idols of ego and tribe and boundary will give way as we weave a song of wonder, celebrating the many and the one. Together we will sing the world awake. I'd like to invite you to join me in singing our opening hymn this morning. Even though you're muted, I invite you to sing along at home. Just because we can't hear each other doesn't mean we can't sing together. It doesn't mean we can't still breathe in rhythm together. So this is a great time to sing out like other folks can't hear you, try out some new harmonies you might not have been so bold to try if we were all together. Song is Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Goes like this. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Let's try that again. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, here we go. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Today will be a joyful day. Today will be a joyful day. One more. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
In Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of the church strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Please say along with me from home the words of our parish covenant as shown on your screen. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world. Though we cannot gather in person during this time, we are living these promises every day.
Well, I'd love to share with you all the story Desmond Gets Free. Now, Desmond the mouse lived in the most beautiful meadow in all of the land. Every morning, Desmond would awake with the sunrise and spend the day playing in that beautiful meadow, and every night he would go to sleep in the middle of that meadow under the beautiful starry sky. One night, though, Desmond awoke to find that it was still dark out. He tried to roll over and get more comfortable, go back to sleep, but something wasn't right. He could hardly move, and his tail was throbbing with pain. Reaching behind him, Desmond felt that there was some sort of huge rock or boulder that seemed to have fallen and landed just on his tail. He tried tugging on his tail to get free from under this huge rock, and he tried pushing on the boulder to get loose, but it was no use. He was stuck. He started to get worried, so again he tugged on his tail with all of his strength, and he pushed with all of his might. And he tugged and pushed and tugged, but it wouldn't budge. Just when Desmond was about to give up, he saw a giraffe pass by through the meadow, though. Good news, he thought. He called out, "Oh, giraffe, it seems that some sort of huge boulder has landed just on my tail in the middle of the meadow. If you could use your strong legs to nudge it just a few inches in the other direction, I could get free." Well, the giraffe laughed at Desmond the way giraffes do. "You silly mouse," it said. "That's no boulder that's fallen on your tail. That is an elephant that's fallen asleep on your tail." "Well, good news," thought Desmond. "If you could just gently wake him up and ask him to roll over just a few inches in the other direction, I could get free." "Well, I don't know about that," said the giraffe. "I mean, you know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best not to get involved in other animals' business. I find it's best to remain neutral in times like this." "Well," said Desmond, "I do not appreciate your neutrality." And with that, the giraffe wandered off. Now, Desmond tried calling out as loud as he could to wake up the elephant, but his little mouse voice was just too far from those giant elephant ears, all the way on the other side of that giant elephant body. Again, he tried tugging to get his tail loose and pushing on the elephant to get free. And he tried yelling and shouting and tugging and pushing and pushing and tugging and shouting, but it was no use. And just when he was about out of breath, he saw a gazelle pass by through the meadow. Good news, he thought. "Oh, gazelle," he called out, "it seems that this elephant has fallen asleep just on my tail in the middle of the meadow. If you could just wake him up gently and ask him to roll over just a few inches in the other direction, I could get free." "I don't know about that," said the gazelle. "You know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best to remain neutral in times like this. I find it's best not to get involved in other animals' business." Well, the gazelle wandered off, and Desmond said almost to himself this time, "I do not appreciate your neutrality." One final time, Desmond tried shouting as loud as he could to wake the giant elephant. He tried pushing with all of his strength and tugging with all of his might. And he tried yelling and pushing and tugging and tugging and pushing and yelling. And when he had just about given up for the last time, he saw another animal pass by through the grass. And this time it was another mouse. He called out, and the mouse ran over immediately and introduced himself. "My name is Nelson. What seems to be the problem?" Well, no sooner had Desmond explained the situation than Nelson ran all the way to the other side of that giant elephant body. And he called up to those giant elephant ears, "Excuse me! It seems you've fallen asleep on my friend's tail in the middle of the meadow. If you could roll over just a few inches in the other direction, he could get free." Well, the elephant heard Nelson's little mouse voice way down on the ground, but he was just too far away, and the voice was a little too quiet, and to be honest, the elephant was a little too comfortable. He didn't budge. So Nelson ran back to Desmond and said, "I think I might have an idea. Don't move." And he ran off into the grass, leaving a confused look on Desmond's face. And just when Desmond was starting to get worried again, Nelson came back through the grass, but he wasn't alone this time. He had found 3 other mouse friends, and each of them had found another 3 mouse friends. And the whole group of them ran over to the other side of that giant elephant body. One mouse climbed up on the shoulders of their friend, and another climbed up on their shoulders. And together, one by one, they built a whole mouse ladder up the back of that giant elephant head. And at last, Nelson crawled up the shoulders of his friends, and he eventually stood right at the opening of that giant elephant ear. And he called out with all of his voice, "Excuse me! It seems you've fallen asleep on my friend's tail in the middle of the meadow. Roll over just a few inches so he can get free." And with that, the elephant rolled over just a few inches, now that his voice was just too loud to be ignored. Nelson and his friends climbed back down to the ground and ran through the grass to find Desmond, who was free. and the whole group of them spent the rest of that day playing together in that beautiful meadow. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has said, "If you say you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have already taken sides with the powerful and with the oppressor. Because if an elephant is standing on the tail of a mouse, the mouse will never appreciate your neutrality." As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant together to create a world of justice and equity and compassion, which means we work together to take sides for justice, to take sides for equity and compassion, to work together to make this the kind of world we want to live in together. And it means that together we side with love. May it be so, and may we make it so.
This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of this church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world we envision. This month, our collections will be split 50-50 with the Metrowest Worker Center. The Metrowest Worker Center is immigrant worker-led and organizes to defend and expand the labor, civil, and human rights of all workers in Greater Boston. Based out of Framingham, the center serves a multilingual and multiracial worker community and partners with non-immigrant allies to fight unjust laws and practices such as wage theft and to dismantle racism and xenophobia in the Boston area. During the pandemic, the Metrowest Worker Center has also supported Canasta Solidaria, Solidarity Basket, to give groceries and grocery gift cards to struggling immigrant families in Framingham and Milford. Every 2 weeks, 450 families receive staple food items, including rice, eggs, and vegetables. To donate to today's offering, you can use one of 3 methods. You can use our Text to Give program through the number 73256 with the exact wording of "You Need 'em" space plate or pledge 22 space $sign and the amount you want to give. You can mail a check to First Parish at 23 Dedham Avenue. Or you can make a donation through our website, youneedem.org, and select Donate Now under the Giving box. Whichever way, remember to specify whether your donation is meant for the plate collection or for your annual pledge. Thank you for everything you are able to give to help support and sustain this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. Please take these next few moments to give what you can and know that it will be gratefully received.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the weather. It is time now, what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the weather. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around the tendies fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the weather. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around the tendies fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the weather. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Let us join together now in prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love, God of many names, we rejoice with all of you who come today in joy. We know that in times like this, we need joy and laughter if we are to continue the work that is ours to do. Our hearts are also with those who come today with a sorrow or a fear, or in tiredness or weariness. We direct our prayers toward Lebanon, where the call for the judge investigating last year's explosion in a Beirut port to step down has led to an outbreak of the worst violence the country has seen in over a decade. We direct our prayers toward Ethiopia, where the civil war continues, the death count rises every single day, and those who have survived thus far live in dire threat of famine and starvation. We direct our prayers toward Benton Harbor, Michigan, a majority Black city where more than half of their nearly 6,000 service lines are contaminated with lead, which has been polluting their water for years. We cry out, along with the folks of Benton Harbor, against environmental injustices fueled by systemic racism, and lift up the right to water as a basic human right. May we look to this loving community for resilience and hope when our own is in short supply. May we hold each other from a distance in the places that are the most tender this week. May we remember that even though physically distanced, we are still deeply connected. May it be so.
Our reading this morning comes from Andrea Gibson in her poem, Say Yes. When two violins are placed in a room, if a chord is struck on one violin, the other will sound the note. If this is your definition of hope, this is for you. The ones who know how powerful we are, who know we can sound the music in the people around us simply by playing our own strings. For the ones who sing life into broken wings, open their chests and offer their breath as wind on a still day when nothing seems to be moving. This is for doubt becoming faith, for falling from grace and climbing back up, for trading our silver platters for something that matters, like the gold that shines from our hands when we hold each other. This is for the grandmother who walked 1,000 miles on broken glass to find that single patch of grass to plant a family tree where the fruit would grow to laugh. For the ones who know the math of war has always been subtraction, so they live like an action of addition. For you, when you give, like every star is wishing on you, and for the people still wishing on stars, this is for you too. For the many beautiful things we do, for every song we've ever sung, for refusing to believe in miracles because miracles are the impossible coming true and everything is possible. This is for the possibility that guides us and for the possibilities still waiting to sing and spread their wings inside us. This is for you. Our worship today is about how we create the world around us in our lives and our relationships. How working together is what made us the humans that we are and made the world as it is, and how it might make a better world in the future. So I'd love for you to join in this song. I don't know where the song originally came from or the melody. It's been pieced together, it seems, through different traditions. There's a Hebrew part that says, Lo yisagoy al goy harev, lo du ol machama. That means nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and neither shall they study war anymore. And the English words say, do not walk in front of me, I may not follow. Do not walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and hold my hand. And then together we will be walking in the path of Hashem. Hashem is one of the many Hebrew names for God, and in some ways I imagine it might be the most Unitarian Universalist because it simply points at the mystery of the divine, calling it the name. And so I invite you to hum along at home as you get a sense of the melody, or sing along if you can keep up with the words.
Do not walk in front of me, I may not follow. Do not walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and hold my hand. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem. Ayo, oh, Lo yisam goyel goyel Lo ilme duo milhama Lo yisa goyel goyel Lo ilme duo milhama Lo yisa goyel goyel Lo ilme duo milhama Lo yisa do not walk in front of me and may not follow with me. Do not walk behind me and may not lead. Lo yisa just walk beside me and hold my hand with me. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem. Lo yisa do not walk in front of me, I may not follow with me. Do not walk behind me, I may not be. Just walk beside me and hold my hand with me. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem. Do not walk in front of me, I may not follow with me. Do not walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and hold my hand with me. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem. Do not walk in front of me, I may not follow with me. Do walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and hold my hand. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem. Just walk beside me and hold my hand. Do not walk in front of me, I may not follow. Do not walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and hold my hand. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem. Together we'll be walking in the path of Hashem.
When I was in the 6th grade, my mom, a social worker and therapist, came to our class to do an activity with us. The class broke out into small groups, and everyone in each group was given a short story to read. The story was a mystery. It was a bunch of pirates looking for buried treasure, and each group had to figure out where the treasure was hidden based on the clues in their stories. What my mom didn't mention was that not everyone in the group had been given the same information in their handout. A few people in each group had gotten stories with just an extra sentence or two, offering some key important clues. Among everyone in each group, there was all the information necessary to find the treasure, but not everyone had all the information. At first glance, though, the stories looked similar on the page. So in some of the groups, when someone said, well, Captain so-and-so had the treasure last, or it was on this ship or that one, other kids in the group told them they were wrong. because that wasn't in their version of the story. In only one group, when someone spoke up with information that no one else had, did the group respond positively, realizing that there was more to the story than the others were given. The groups that allowed for the possibility of new information solved the mystery. The groups that allowed for a diversity of experience and perspectives found the hidden treasure. There's a saying among the Zapatistas, an indigenous army in Chiapas, Mexico, that says, "Entre todos lo sabemos todo." Among everyone, we know everything. When things are changing fast, when we're required to adapt, when there is treasure to be found, we are smarter together. We each bear the song, we each need the choir. One of the great mysteries of human history is why we Homo sapiens are still around and Neanderthals, our cousins, are not. Neanderthals were probably bigger and stronger than Homo sapiens. So some scientists think that we must have outcompeted them by being more violent and more cruel than they. That we must have won the evolutionary contest by fighting dirtier. Reading the headlines in the news these days, I'm sorry to say that this seems like a totally plausible explanation. Others, though, think that human beings were smarter, that we Homo sapiens survived and out-thrived them by creating better tools and technology. But there's actually some evidence now to show that Neanderthals were at least as smart as us, inventing more tools more often. And similar to other modern apes, they think, the Neanderthals were just as smart as we at most things. Compared to other apes like chimpanzees, humans don't actually win out at most basic tests of inherent intelligence. Humans are generally not better than chimpanzees at spatial understanding or calculation or causality or processing speed. We're worse at a number of them, actually. But there's one category that scientists have found where we Homo sapiens are the reigning champions. We are the very best at learning from each other. What they call social learning is our superpower. Now, as someone who's watched just about every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I want to add that to call social learning our human superpower is perhaps an understatement. What humans have been able to teach and learn from each other over the last 10,000 years makes most of the Marvel superheroes seem unimpressive. X-ray vision, we actually invented that. Learning how to fly in the air like a bird, we invented that too. Creating electricity from water or from sunlight, I don't understand how, but we figured it out. Including exploring other planets and speaking to each other using radio waves. Check, check, check. The scientists tell us that if you want a society to survive and thrive, it's better to have a group of people where only 1 in 1,000 invents something like a fishing pole, but everyone else in the group is capable of learning how to use it, than it is to have a group where 1 in 10 invent a fishing pole, but they keep that information to themselves. This is the importance of social learning. But you all know this. If you're good at playing Dungeons and Dragons or chess or pickleball, it's probably because you spent time with other humans learning the game. And if you're great at music, it's not because you invented a new amazing instrument or created some new chord progression no one had ever thought of before. It's probably because you spent time listening to lots of other musicians and learning from their ideas. And music in particular is both the effect and the cause of communities learning and growing together. Our earlier reading said, "Someday the song will rise in our mouths and we will sing together in harmony." But the truth is, we've always been singing in harmony together. Singing is possibly older than speaking among us Homo sapiens, and music has always played a central role in the kind of social learning that made us the cooperative creatures that we evolved to be. The creation story of humankind is that we created ourselves by listening and learning together. With shared singing and stories, with music and conversation, we made us who we are. If this is your definition of hope, this is for you. The ones who know how powerful we are, who know we can sound the music in the people around us. We each bear the song. We each need the choir. Now, of course, some individuals stand out. Some people are certainly way above average in very specific things. I read recently that during a devastating pandemic, Isaac Newton went to the countryside to live with his mom while social distancing for the summer. He decided to use these few months away to learn the entire field of mathematics. And when he finished that, he still had a few weeks left in the summer, and so he invented calculus. Well, that makes me feel a little bad about my pandemic hobbies, but nonetheless, Newton is, of course, a shining light in the history of Western science. But I think it's important to remember that he wasn't alone in creating calculus. Another guy, Gottfried Leibniz, also discovered calculus independently at the same time. So for thousands of years, not a single human being invented calculus, and then suddenly 2 people invented it at practically the same time. This isn't some amazing coincidence. It's because they were both building on a growing community of knowledge. And the same is true for a long list of other scientific breakthroughs. They were often, if not usually, discovered by multiple people at the same time, because invention has little to do with outstanding individuals, and it has everything to do with social learning. Entre todos lo sabemos todo. Among everyone, we know everything. And here's the thing. Social learning isn't just about science and technology and fishing poles. Spiritual growth is also something that we learn in community. What is true of science is true of spirituality. We have something to learn from each other. Now, some folks describe themselves as spiritual but not religious, which in some cases means spiritual but without community. It takes some mental gymnastics, though, to spend our lives learning from others in our profession, learning from others in our hobby, learning from others in our art, and then turn around and decide that spiritual maturity is the one thing that is a solo climb. Community is where we learn to make spiritual lives together, where we look back to our traditions that we've inherited and make them our own, where we learn from others who are on farther along the path than us or on entirely different paths than us. We need that community. We need that spiritual social learning when we're celebrating, when times are good and we want to share the joy, and we need it in times of loss, most of all, perhaps. When my dad passed away 2 years ago, I didn't want to hear from anyone that they knew exactly how I felt. The mix of emotions was complicated. The loss was huge, and like every loss, it was unique. But at the same time, I was comforted to know that I was not the first human being to experience this type of grief. And it was in spiritual community with my people that I learned some ways to move forward. It was spiritual community that taught me to sing in moments like this. And so I knew to sing to my dad in his last days, which made such a difference for my heart as I sat by his bed and kept vigil. And it was being in community after he had passed, being in community with those who had experienced loss before, where I learned how to make small rituals out of remembering, how to spend time with pictures and tell their stories, how to wonder aloud about what was and what might have been, how to balance journaling and tears with distractions and Netflix. I don't believe there are right or wrong ways to grieve, but I believe that when you are lost in the wilderness of loss, religious traditions and spiritual community can offer some markers on the path to find some way forward. religious community offered me the spiritual technologies when I needed them most, so that even in that deep loneliness of that time, I had ways to feel connection. And when my heart was weighed down with grief, I was able to hold some gratitude as well. And I knew that there was something on the other side, because I knew from my people that there was more to this story than I alone had been given. When the pandemic first came a year and a half ago, times were changing fast. It was a time of physical distancing and a time of social learning. A year and a half ago, I was on the phone and online asking my people a long list of technical questions. What kind of software do I need for this? And what kind of camera do I need for that? What kind of Zoom account do I need? And what kind of lighting? Today, as we look ahead to the months before us, imagining ways of continuing to be safe and take care of each other while finding ways to connect, I have new questions. My questions now are about spiritual technologies. How do we make meaning of this last year and a half? What does healing look like in the wake of so much loss? What do you know of prayer and meditation, or of poetry and scripture? What do you know of song and silence, or of doubt becoming faith? How do we envision something new together instead of going back to the way things were? How will we teach each other together to build a new world that we know is possible? We will learn to answer these questions together. Entre todos lo sabemos todo. Among everyone, we know everything. Spiritual community shouldn't be about finding identical spiritual paths, and it shouldn't be about believing identical things, but it should be a place of learning together, a place to learn, love, and to do justice together, because we each bear the song and we each need the choir. Beloveds, someday the song will rise in our mouths and we will sing together in harmony, and together we will sing this world awake. May it be so, and may we make it so. Our closing song this morning is More Waters Rising by Lynch Thomason, a climate justice activist in Appalachia. And this song, like the best music, I think, and perhaps like the best faith communities, calls us not to ignore the multiple crises of our time that particularly this year are layered on top of each other, not to turn away from the difficult things that we face, but to look at them directly, to name them honestly, and to move forward to address them together. Pete Seeger used to say, "A good song reminds us what we're fighting for, so help me sing this one." In that spirit, I invite you to sing along. It goes like this. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning. Here we go. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. More mountains falling. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the water.
I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through the waters when they find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will walk through the fire. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will walk through the fires when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to me. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. There are more waters rising, there are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know.
As we close our worship today, please remember to keep a careful eye out for emails from First Parish and follow us on social media so you can keep up with opportunities for connection with your faith community during these times of physical isolation. When today's service ends, you are all invited to stay with us for our Zoom social hour. Please remember, if you fall ill or need any pastoral support, to reach out to our pastoral care team and caring crew via phone or email. We also encourage all of you strongly to check in with your friends at First Parish and to double check your own contact information in our realm directory. We always extinguish our chalice with words promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again. And I know that you and I and all of us are deeply committed to that promise, no matter how long it is until we are together again. As we extinguish our chalice today, please join me from home in saying these words written by Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Elizabeth Selle-Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Beloveds, go in peace, go in love, and go and be blessed as you are a blessing to each other.